The other thing to keep in mind is that we're approaching the final year of the full funding of the newest or latest rendition of the funding formula.
Yep.
So there will be less state, well, the state contribution will be fixed. And if your local contribution is also fixed at 0%, you're going to be facing some pretty significant challenges. So I think that's the other thing for people who are new to the budget process to keep in mind.
The point that I was going to make as well is your chief financial officer in your district is charged with developing a 5-year plan. And that 5-year projection should show you, if there's intelligence and good data behind it, the direction that your district is going in. So you don't want to, when you have a presentation of the budget, you just don't want to have a presentation of a 1-year budget. You may want to ask questions about that 5-year projection, where the district is headed. Because you can't vote in isolation simply for 1 year, knowing that you can have an impact multiple years afterwards. You'll find, by and large, that both superintendents, which wasn't the case 10, 12, 15 years ago, and business managers have gotten very good and very savvy. They can give you very good data. The information systems that they've developed, there are 3 or 4 of them that are used pretty much by everybody in the state. Very good. Data is consistent now based on the Uniform Chart of Accounts across school districts, so you can compare if you want to. You can go on RIDE's website and compare like districts, like course. There's a lot of comparative work that you could do if you're inclined to, or you can ask your business manager to do that. That'll help you. But the point that Mary Ann and I are making that we hope you understand is you never make a 1-year decision when it comes to money, especially if you're cutting your budget. You really have to look at the impacts down the road, because they could be severe and they could last a long time. They could force you to cut out major programs, educational programs, in your school district, ultimately.
Have you ever come up with a percentage that salaries and benefits should be the total of your total budget?
It's a moving target, so the answer is no. So you look at your districts, you look at like districts, you look at how long it's been that your employees have had a raise, you look at your retention, you look at your turnover, you look at your lowest steps relative to other districts, depending on whether or not you need to attract new blood into your system. So there are a lot of variables that you would look at in order to come to that determination. Then you look at what the cost of union peace is. And we're going to have, as Tim mentioned, we're going to have in February probably a 2-day seminar on collective bargaining. And we're going to talk about those kind of concepts and how you analyze that and value it. But there's no magic bullet.
Okay. Why I ask, because in Warwick, our budget is $162 million. 86% of that is salaries and benefits. We run the whole department on the other 14 or 15%, and this goes on year after year, which is why I was asking that question.
That's true.
They said anything over 80 is usually a dangerous situation for a school department to be in.
Well, I just think it depends on the school department. It could. But don't forget as well, what is your major inventory in a school system? It's your teachers. And you want good, qualified, happy teachers to teach your kids.
Well, they're happy.
Not from what I've read, Gene. The last point on the screen that we wanted to make is some of you, for some reason, get wed to the budget. Okay? You think the budget is a static document. So when the superintendent or your top business official says we have to move money from one line to another, or we had 4 special ed kids that came in, so now we have to hire 2 teachers, or we have an out-of-district placement, and it's like somebody set your hair on fire because we have to make changes in the budget. The budget should be considered as a roadmap of what you project is going to happen over the course of the year. None of us can tell the future, except for Mary Ann. So you really need to be flexible in terms of what the budget priorities are and how they change over time. Your turn. Oh, this is the slide. This is the slide that she hates. So I'm going to say, see, we talked about it when we really didn't. So this is the point of this slide. So a lot of people come in with the concept of we're going to cut, we're going to cut.
I disagree.
I know. We're going to cut, which is fine. But when you understand your position on the school committee is not to get the taxpayers the best break they can. I mean, one of your priorities is to get them the best value for the money that you're spending, educational value, right? But if you go through the budget every single year and you cut out every available low-hanging piece of fruit, what happens in the years when you have more kids and you need to expand that budget and you're now within a 4% cap? You're in trouble. So sometimes it's appropriate to keep small pockets of money around because you're going to need to use that money strategically year to year. So don't be in a rush, and this is the thing that got me in trouble in Newport. I said, don't be in a rush to cut your budget because there are plenty of other people that are out there doing it. Be in a rush to protect your budget and to protect education, your educational priorities.
Okay, and this is where we disagree a little bit, and I think it's more in how we present it rather than the philosophical positions that we're in. I believe I'm an elected official. I've been elected by the voters in the town of Gloucester, and I have to be fiscally responsible to those voters that put me in my job. So I think I do have to be fiscally responsible when it comes to the budget. And I do think I need to look, as a school committee person, I have to review that budget to make sure that we are presenting the most economical budget to everyone. Now, do I think we should be cutting programs, and do I think that we should be cutting positions that we need in the school department? No, but I do think that we, and this is where Ben has never been an elected official, I think as elected officials, we wear two hats. We have to do what's best for kids, and we want the best programs for kids. But at the same time, we need to remember that we're elected by people that want us to be fiscally responsible. So he did get himself in trouble in Newport when he told the Newport School Committee that they weren't responsible for cutting the budget. At the bottom line, I don't mean cut it and devastate it. I just mean be fiscally responsible. When I was a superintendent, we weren't bound by a 4%. I think I went in one year with about a 12% budget. And, you know, I advocated for it, and the committee cut it somewhat. But again, we need to offer our kids what they need. At the same time, we do need to be fiscally responsible. I think it's a very, I think we walk that very fine line, but I do think that's our role as a school committee person. And then once we as a school committee decide on what that budget is, then we're going to lobby and fight as hard as we can to make sure that our town council or our financial town meeting accepts that budget.
So that's both sides. I still say don't cut the low-hanging fruit. So the last...
That's why he's never been elected, and all of you in here and I have.
But I never lost the race.
Just, I want to side with Ben on this. Sorry, Marianne, but you know, my take on this is, I haven't come across a district that has everything that it needs, right? So by retaining those funds as much as possible, and to your earlier point that the budget is, in a sense, a working document, right? So if we're fiscally responsible in allocating what we're requesting and or ultimately get, that may shift as the year goes on until the next budget. But if we refuse to ask or retain those funds, when we do need them, when something does pop up, you have no other line to grab some of those necessary funds from. Now you're at the, you know, at the beck and call of the
municipality.
council. So.
Which very often hasn't put money aside for that purpose.
So yeah, so I mean, you definitely don't hide it. I think you need to show and be responsible as far as what your plans are, but I don't think that there's, I can't imagine anything that would be considered fluff as a line item in our public schools in any district, so.
I think you agree with both of us.
We'll go with that. I'm good with that.